Good morning, everybody. You're watching The Morning Show. I'm Liza Fromer. Renowned scientists Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Krauss are the focus of a new documentary, The Unbelievers. Following them across the globe, the film offers a glimpse into two of the world's most influential minds as they speak about the importance of science and reason. Take a look.
Science is wonderful. Science is beautiful. Religion is not wonderful. It's not beautiful. It gets in the way.
But some of the stuff you do really upsets some people. Would you prefer that it was just...
No, I think these are wonderful things. People shouldn't be threatened by science.
I think we follow people who have courage.
And Professor Dawkins and Professor Krauss join us now. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Guys.
Great to be here.
So many people feel religion brings something so special to their lives. And a question that you hear often if you're talking about atheism and religion, why can't people believe in science, but at the same time take their comfort, understand that we probably, or we did evolve in a scientific way, but still take some sort of comfort in their faith? Can't they coexist?
Well, you want to start?
Well, they may be able to coexist in some people's minds. They clearly do in some people's minds. The question I want to ask is, if something is comforting, that's great, but it doesn't make it true. There are people who sincerely seem to think that because something is consoling or comforting, that therefore it's got to be true. I mean, that just isn't logic.
There would be a lot of... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, it's first of all to realize that the universe doesn't exist so we can be happy. That's the first thing. We have to understand reality. And if we get comfort from things that are imaginary, well, it helps us in the short run. But in the long run, it leads us to act in often irrational ways.
Do you think... go ahead.
I was going to say, just there are so many people who are able to find this comfort in religion or in belief, which is something that both of you don't. You want fact over fiction, I guess, in its simplicity. But I'm wondering, what would happen to those people who have found God and whose lives have turned around? Do you not worry about those people who would not be able to go forward in their lives?
Steven Pinker said, if you're being chased by a tiger, it may comfort you to believe it's a rabbit, but it is a tiger and it's going to eat you.
But so you don't worry about them?
Well, no, I think we do. Look, I think we do. The point is that no one, I don't think either of us wants to make people feel bad. I think we recognize that all of us need comfort in different ways. But what we're just trying to encourage people to do is get comfort from the real world. We're not trying to take something away. I think we're trying to add. We're trying to add the wonder of reality, the poetry of the real universe, and say that you can get solace, you can get wonder from the real world, and you don't. Therefore, it's true you can get comfort from religion, but that doesn't say you have to have religion to get comfort.
I came across a really interesting article over the weekend that I wanted to ask you guys about fraud, research fraud in the scientific community, and it cites prominent scientists from Harvard, a stem cell researcher from South Korea, and one scientist was asked why he thought it caused such a shock in his country, in the Netherlands, and this is what he said. He said, people think of scientists as monks in a monastery looking out for the truth. People have lost faith in the church, but they haven't lost faith in science. My behavior shows that science is not holy. And I wondered how you would react to that comment. Do you think science is holy?
No. I mean, scientists are, of course, human. But the entire scientific enterprise breaks down if people cheat. I mean, science simply couldn't proceed if people made up their data. Occasionally they do, they get found out. Science has built-in methods for doing that, built-in methods for checking. And so science has its own immune system against that kind of thing. It's part of science to do that, unlike almost any other field you can think of.
And the key thing about science is there are no scientific authorities. That's what's really important. There's no one whose words, there's no one who's infallible. There's no one whose words are not subject to question by any student. And that's what makes it so wonderful, is that everyone is subject to question. There are scientific experts, but there are no authorities. And I think it's really important to point that out, and to point out that scientists are human, which it's nice if some people actually realize, but also that this enterprise really is based on honesty. In fact, science has an ethos. People say, oh, you get rid of religion, where's morality, where's ethos? Well, you know, the ethos of science is honesty, full disclosure, all the things that in my country, if they happen in Washington, would be a great addition to politics.
I'm wondering, Richard, when you speak with you're on the stage and you're speaking with religious leaders. Are you thinking that you need to really mince your words or choose your words carefully? Because sometimes they're so emotional. You seem to be very, very calm when you're speaking with them, but a lot of people aren't. They're quite emotional when they're talking about their religion.
I'm glad to hear you say I'm very calm. I think so too, and it is perfectly true that religious people do get extremely emotional. I mean, they very much identify with their religion. It's almost part of them. So if you criticize their religion, it's almost as though you've said you've got an ugly face or something. Whereas all we're doing is criticizing a view of the world which they hold and asking for the evidence or criticizing the evidence or whatever it might be.
Well, that's what you point out in The Unbelievers as well, is that religion is a completely hands-off topic. We can talk about politics, you can have a view, I can have a view, we could have a lively debate, and everyone's happy. If you say you believe something because it's your religious point of view, the conversation's over.
It's suddenly, and that's the point, is that nothing is not subject to questioning. Nothing is sacred. That's basically the way to say it. And it's not just a discussion, it's ridicule, it's having fun. You can have fun with politicians, with sex, with anything else, but religion somehow you're not supposed to. And that's, I think, one of the things Richard's done most effectively, in my opinion, is raise consciousness to the idea that it's okay to question these things. And I certainly try and do it with ridicule. And I think what's amazing is you were saying Richard was calm, and I would agree, but we're often called strident just simply for asking the question, can you make a universe without God? Just asking the question automatically makes you strident.
Which is Lawrence's book, which is why he was here the last time, A Universe from Nothing. We are going to take a short break, but we're going to continue our conversation with Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Krauss about their film, The Unbelievers, in just a minute. Good morning, everybody. Professor Richard Dawkins and Professor Lawrence Krauss are here. Richard's book is The God Delusion, and Lawrence's is A Universe from Nothing. And now they have joined forces to put out the documentary, The Unbelievers. And we're going to continue our conversation now. What I find interesting is that there's 4 showings. It's the world premiere of your documentary here in Toronto. They are all sold out. Watching, I got to have a sneak peek of your documentary, and you're talking to huge rooms full of people. There was the huge gathering in Washington, and of 30,000 people, was it?
30,000 people.
30,000 people.
Not covered by any major media network.
It was a gathering essentially of atheists. But my point being, do you feel like there's a need or a growing desire to talk about atheism?
Well, I think, yeah, and I happen to think Richard's played a large role in that too. There's a growing, in fact, much of this hateful talk that you hear is the death throes. In the West, interest in religion is going down, no matter what people say, and more people are coming to realize that they can think for themselves.
You know, it's interesting. You have an out campaign, Richard, where you want atheists to come out.
Well, we don't want to compel anybody to come out, of course. We want to encourage people, raise consciousness, stand out, come out if you feel like it. We don't out people. It's kind of modeled on the gay campaign, but we don't out people.
You feel under attack by the other side.
I wouldn't put it as strongly as that, no. I mean, I just think that science is wonderful, truth is wonderful, reality is wonderful. People need to appreciate reality and not hide behind the smokescreen of superstition.
Dr. Dawkins, maybe a little bit more on the personal level. You wrote a letter to your daughter when she turned 10. I counted, I think it was 24 paragraphs long, about how to be a critical thinker. How did she receive that?
Oh, very well. And I reprinted the letter in a book called A Devil's Chaplain, and I dedicated it to her on her 18th birthday. It's not an anti-religion letter, it's a pro-critical thinking letter. It's inviting her to think for herself.
She didn't say, oh, can my dad just not give me a regular birthday card? Come on.
That's a pretty special
regular birthday card.
Of course, that too.
Another point that I wanted to get to, your book, Lawrence, A Universe from Nothing, that's another point that people make. This world, this universe cannot have come from worms or fish crawling out of the ocean. How can it be? It's so magnificent. There had to be a greater hand.
Well, you know, the point is that, and we were just talking about this beforehand, a lot of what we've learned about science tells us that our quote-unquote common sense is just wrong. And in fact, we evolved as Richard said, to avoid, you know, lions on the savannah, not to do quantum mechanics. And so the fact that our common sense is wrong is not such a bad thing. It's called learning. It's really, the fact that we have to change our minds shouldn't be a threat. It's a wonderful thing to force your beliefs to conform to the evidence of reality. And it is strange and amazing that it's possible that a universe could come from nothing. It's strange and amazing that the entire diversity of life could come from a single progenitor. But those are worth celebrating. It's not worth being threatened by. It's amazing to discover you're wrong. In fact, it's liberating. That's one of the great things about science. I mean, we've all had it as scientists. Discovering you're wrong is not a threat. It's a liberating experience. It opens your mind.
Doesn't it feel, though, I mean, never mind the religious extremists, that spirituality and what you're talking about is the same, just in different languages?
Well, one is right.
So
you can use the word spirituality for the kind of things that we do or that Carl Sagan does, but people are all too ready to confuse that with supernaturalism, and that's definitely wrong. What you need is the kind of emotional response to the universe, which you could call spiritual if you like. But it's real, and science is the way to study it as reality. Don't get suckered into thinking there's something supernatural and mysterious about it.
That supernatural aspect, that spiritual aspect, I should say, is really important. I mean, because again, one of the attacks on us and on science is somehow takes the awe and wonder and spiritual fulfillment. But the spiritual fulfillment is greater. The universe is much more interesting than the myths and superstitions created by Iron Age peasants who didn't even know the Earth orbited the sun.
And it will get even more interesting with the science of the future. Science is not finished, it's going on.
Well, we knew even if we dedicated both big blocks of our show, we wouldn't even begin to scratch the surface, but we're out of time. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Krauss. And the film is called The Unbelievers. It has its world premiere at Hot Docs tonight. There will be 4 showings. You guys will be at tonight's showing?
Yes.
All right, and there are, even though they're sold out, there are some rush tickets available. It's been our pleasure.
It's great to be back.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Anytime.